I'm Doug Smith again, and I'm back with another session of the PEDC's series on It's the Economy. Today we have with us Bill Clark, who's the business director for the town of Portsmouth, and he essentially works to try to help businesses come into Portsmouth and take them through, guide them through the bureaucratic issues that they have to deal with. Bill, let me start off by asking, how did this position get started in Portsmouth?
Yes, Doug. The Town Economic Development Committee in the late 90s was advocating for something along this line. And what they were looking at was the continual shrinking of the business base, the business tax value in town. At one time, our business value of all the commercial and industrial in town amounted to about 20% of the tax base. And over the time, in the late 90s and early part of this century, it shrunk down to just under 10%. So what that meant is that it was shifting the tax burden from more and more to the residences, and not as we were losing some of the commercial tax base. And it wasn't so much a matter that we lost a lot of businesses either. It was just an enormous change in the residential values here in town. There was an awful lot of residential building, and of course the residential housing boom and valuation that increased offset the business base greatly.
Yeah, Rich Silipsky discussed that a little bit earlier. He mentioned the difference between the actual revenue that we get from businesses and the revenue that we get from residences, and how it really makes a difference in terms of dollars to the town. So basically, they started looking around for this position, and you applied for it? Is that
yes,
how it worked?
they had advocated, as I say, through the council, and in 2001, they received permission from the council to advertise for the position. It's a part-time position. I'm not a town employee. It's an annual contract that's been renewed for the last 9 years. So when they got approval from the council, they advertised for it, did a series of interviews, and I threw my hat in the ring. I had retired from another position I was in business with a large corporation doing site development and building businesses for that company, buying and selling real estate and doing the zoning and permitting process throughout New England. So that I put my hat in and I got selected, and that started in February of 2002. And the council has seen fit to continue to renew that contract. They've all been buying into the fact that we want to advocate for the business and try and grow the business base here in town.
Give me some idea. Let's just say I'm a business owner. I own a small business, and I'm interested in moving an office or one of my spaces into Portsmouth. Mm-hmm. What would you do for me?
Interesting you mentioned a small business, because that's one of the things that we want to make sure that people are aware of. That so often when they talk about business growth, they might think of some large company or some large, great big development coming in, but about 85 to 95% of all our businesses are small businesses, and especially the new businesses and the startups. Those are the ones that we could expect some growth by the town. Yes, there may be a chance that something large might come along, but it's really going to be if we can continue to nurture the existing businesses that are here and attract some of the small businesses that have an interest in growing in this area. They may be businesses that relate to things we already have in town. Most people are aware that we have quite an existing complex of marine trades in town. There are 44 different marine companies located in Portsmouth alone. And the biggest cluster of that is down in our Melville area over on the west side of the bay. Right in the Melville Marine District, we have 26 marine companies. And they're continually looking for new employees. They've got job openings at most times. And most of them have a need to grow. So our position with them is, how can we help you? What can we do to advocate for you? Is there an outreach we can make to the state, or even some of our local legislators, about advocating for programs that might encourage them to grow here?
Sure, and as I recall, just a few weeks ago, you led some kind of delegation from the Congress, U.S. Congress.
Yes.
Taking a look at Melville.
Our newest federal legislator, David Cicilline, was unfamiliar with the amount of marine trades we had in this area, and I had seen him at a roundtable he held up in Providence and mentioned it to him, and he took a great interest in it, and from that he wanted to see it. So he came down with his staff, and myself and a couple of our town councilmen conducted a tour, and we visited the 3 key large boat builders over in the Melville area, and he was quite impressed with what's going on. And
So let me just get back a little bit to my earlier question. I'm a business, I call you, I say, look, I'm looking to maybe relocate. What do you do for people?
well, we do get several inquiries like that, and one of the key things we've been trying to do is become like a clearinghouse for locations, for people that have space available, whether the inquiry might involve a business wanting to locate, maybe find some land to build, or just to expand their existing business also. So we have some ongoing contacts, and I stay in touch with realtors and brokers in the area. We have property listings that they try and alert me to, that they're looking for places. And a couple of the landlords in the business park do the same thing, that as business space becomes available over there. So hopefully we can at least get them talking to some people that might lead them to a place where they can grow or expand that, however they might be searching for.
I guess the thing that would intimidate me most is how do you navigate the bureaucracy of a town, of any town? Is there any help that you can give to business people coming in looking for ways to do that, some background?
Yes, I think some of my background before I took on this job when I was working in industry related to how I did permitting and zoning is a plus. But of more importance is that through the office, I'm able to maybe introduce them to staff members within the town as to what they might have to consider before they would go ahead and invest in some land or invest in building a building. And with the help of the Economic Development Committee, we created a booklet on doing business in Portsmouth. And what it does, it really just is answers some questions: who would I turn to, where would I go to for information, what are some of the steps I'd need as I go through before I get to building, what boards would I have to go through, what types of permits are necessary. So it's just a way to get people talking and hold their hand perhaps, get them in touch with some of the people that have the experience in town that can help them.
Yeah. You also are very active on the development end with a lot of civic organizations such as the Portsmouth Business Association. I understand you're on the board of the PBA.
Yes, the Portsmouth Business Association a couple of years ago asked me to sit on the board. I had been attending many of their functions, and we find an awful lot of exchange of good information in some of their after-hours events, some of the initiatives that have taken place. Back when the fire code laws were being changed and everybody was up in arms about the new requirements as a result of the disaster at the station fire, there was a lot of misinformation and a lot of things that weren't quite understood as to what would be required to make compliance with the fire code. So we had Chief Lynch attend a couple of PBA functions. He did a lot of question and answer activity with the businesses. And I think it helped just open up a good dialogue between the fire department and some of the businesses that were meeting some of these very restrictive requirements.
Now, what kind of businesses would you like to see come to Portsmouth? You know, Portsmouth is a relatively small community. It's got farming roots, but it's grown considerably in terms of people. What kind of business would you think would fit in Portsmouth?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we've got the marine trades as a good base to build from. And as some land may become available, I think there's an opportunity. We do get calls, and the state gets calls for people that are thinking of coming here simply because of the synergy that's created by being located near the other boat builders. We mentioned some spin-off from the defense industry. We've got a couple of tech companies over in the business park that have both of them on some very leading edge technology. One in radio identification systems, and the other one in cleaning up. It's a groundwater reclamation type activity, and both of those companies have started locally, pretty much grown from grassroots. Both of them have doubled their employment over the last couple of years. Both of them are seeking to expand in the future, and those types of things we could build on. But we could use probably in town a mix of maybe a little more retail. I know it's a sensitive issue because people always say, I like the town the way it is, and we can understand that. But at some point, there's going to be some interest in some of our East Main and West Main properties, and I think rightly so. we see a couple of inquiries coming along that line, but the current economy right now I don't think lends itself well. But the calls are starting to come along that there's some people thinking again about maybe building something, or at least looking more seriously than they were these last couple of years.
Yeah, that'd be great to see some of that come back. You know, I notice also we've got some residential developments, but they're really at the high end. I'm thinking Carnegie,
Yes.
Abbey, that area down there. The thing is, I would think that those high-end places, a lot of which are simply vacation homes, would probably provide a better revenue stream than normal residential housing. Can you kind of explain that a little bit?
They do, and it's something that the EDC and my office helped create and identify. As you mentioned, the activity had started when Carnegie Abbey started growing from the golf course and the housing was coming along. And we looked at it and said, look, these homes are of exceptional value. So they're adding an awful lot to the tax base. And most of the inhabitants of these homes are here in town for residences maybe 4 or 5 months of the year at the most. One of the things we looked at and continue to evaluate each year is a home that is built where the individual is not a registered voter and does not receive their tax bill here in Portsmouth pretty much indicates that person is a part-timer. Those people don't have kids in school. They don't require around the clock and around the year-round services. So they do have a positive income stream, much as you mentioned before that the businesses are a positive revenue generator, and a general residence that, as we say, a typical 2 or 3 bedroom home with 1 or 2 children is a big impact on the schools. But these people are not bringing those requirements for added town services. So what we've called the recreational residential, the rec-res, are in fact also revenue generating and revenue positive, much like our business base is.
Yeah, so all that helps the bottom line, which is what the PEDC really is all about, and that's what this series is all about. Do you think the business situation in Portsmouth will start picking up in the future?
There's indications that it will. As I say, there's a couple of things happening, and some calls are coming in of that nature that people are thinking. We've had a couple new businesses along East Main Road over the past year, and we're very optimistic, I think.
That'll be great. Well, listen, Bill, thanks very much. I want to thank everybody for joining us here. I've had Bill Clark, the Portsmouth Director of Business Development, with us today. Hopefully the economy will turn around and we'll get all this stuff back on a level keel. But I think new businesses need to know that the place to go, the one-stop shopping place for Portsmouth, is Bill Clark. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.